All right, guys, it is my favorite number today. That's right, we are up to episode number 6, and that is part 2 of my chat with Dimitri Petridis. Now, in this episode, we do speak about Dim's first MMA fight and what the transition to MMA has been like for him. We do touch on some topics that a lot of combat athletes do struggle with, things like confidence, body issues, and there's a lot of advice and tips in this episode as well. So hopefully you do get something out of it. You'll also hear about what I hope sticks as a fight name for Dim because 1, it is perfect, and 2, it is absolutely hilarious. And I'm not going to waste any more of your time. We are going to jump straight back into this episode exactly where we left off so that Dim can tell you about how it was an injury that actually led him to transition into MMA. So let's get straight into it. This is a Drop Bear Downpour podcast, and I am Danielle Drop Bear Curtis. Over to you, Dim.
It was funny how the catalyst for me to start MMA was getting a pretty major injury. Yeah, so I was prepping for a fight, and I ended up, unfortunately, blowing my ACL on my left knee. And it was a really shitty way of doing it. So I was sparring with one of my training partners, and we were going like 50, 60%, basically just warming up. And he caught a switch kick, and I was like, okay, cool, like let it go. Yeah. But he decided to go for a sweep. But he did an outside sweep, and instead of kicking low and sweeping my foot, he kicked me right in the knee, and all my weight was on that one leg because he was still holding my leg.
Yeah, of course.
And he just fucking blew it straight away.
Buckled it?
Yeah, it completely
Folded
blew
it under your...
completely, yeah. And hurt like hell. But me being me, I was like, fuck it, like let's just keep going. You've only just, it's nothing, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I stood up and squared up, and as we started again, I stepped back and it gave out on me. And it didn't even hurt now, I just gave out. It was a really weird feeling. And then happened again, and I was like, all right, something's really wrong here.
Yeah.
Got it checked out, ACL's gone. I was like, fuck, all right, this sucks. So I was convinced that that's it, I'm done with fighting. Like, I'm done now. Like, I may as well just give it up. And I got a message from my now coach, Ryan, on Instagram a few months later. He was like, hey, man, we're following each other on Instagram. He's like, hey, I'm just starting up this Canberra MMA thing. I'd love to have you come check us out. I was like, oh, bro, that'd be awesome. I'm currently just recovering from ACL surgery or reconstruction. When I'm cleared, I'll be back and I'll come check you out. So I had a decision to make whether I'd go check out Ryan's MMA classes or do I go back to Pete and keep doing Muay Thai. I said, fuck it. I've always loved MMA. Yeah. So let's give it a go. So the day after, my physio and my surgeon both said, yep, you're good to train. By the way, I had a really fast recovery. It was only about 7 months before I was cleared to start training again post-op. So yeah, I did everything right. I was obsessed.
But I feel like that's so you though. Again, that's the hard work and just being like, I know that this is what I've got to do. I will do it to a T because that's it. Like you give everything in what you do. You're like, I don't want to leave anything in there. I don't want to leave anything to be like, I don't want to have any regrets to be like, I could have done more. Yeah. I could have done it better. And I think that's one thing that you probably helps you when it comes to fight time is that mindset and mentality wise, you've got that to reaffirm in yourself to be like, well, I have done everything that I possibly can do. So whatever will happen in there will happen. Yep.
And I trusted the process. It's the most important part when it comes to injury recovery, particularly major ones like an ACL, is you need to trust the process from the very beginning, which means that strengthening everything is super important when it comes to this is where I would say the most important thing is strength. Even after you blow your ACL, before the surgery, get strong because then your base level is going to be higher than you were before. Yeah. And then once you have surgery, there's going to be plenty of atrophy, but you're going to bounce back faster. And then just do everything possible to make sure everything comes back right. Yes. Because I have zero issues with my knee now. I don't even think about it. It's perfect. So yeah, anyway, going back to that, I went to Canberra MMA, and my first class was a jiu-jitsu class. I had no idea. I was like a lost lamb. I rocked up and I was like, okay. And like I said, I got towed up by all these dudes, but they were all really cool. They're like, hey, they're really welcoming. I immediately felt at home. Immediately.
Beat you up, but they're so loving about it.
They're so good. They were so nice about it. And I was stoked. And Ryan was like, mate, that was awesome. Love to have you here. I was like, I'm sticking around. That's it. I'm done. Signed up that night. I made my decision. Yeah, signed up that night and then started doing jiu-jitsu and then started going to some of the wrestling classes. And I was like, oh, this is cool.
You're like, this is it. This
cool.
is it.
Fucking hard though. Wrestling's super hard.
Wrestling is very hard. And that's why we see sometimes like when we see wrestlers move into like MMA and they have terrible hands, but they're so grindy and they've got that dog in them because they've learnt resilience.
Yeah.
Like you have to be very resilient.
I will put this on the table and you can come at me if you want. I think that wrestling is the hardest sport when it comes
Like
to just
individual
conditioning.
sport. Yeah.
Conditioning wise, it's the hardest sport. Technically, of course, extremely difficult, but just the conditioning that these guys, a wrestler's warm up is someone's fucking workout.
Yeah.
It is so intense. And then the actual training itself, it's such an explosive and repetitively explosive sport.
But also that anaerobic where it's also like just constantly like flexing or like putting pressure and absorbing pressure, creating and utilizing power and strength, and obviously with someone else's body weight and strength against
Another
you.
person.
So it's that resistance back against you in everything that you're doing.
It is so difficult. And I was like, wow, this is the shit.
It's like if the weights in the weight room like fought back against you and we're trying to be
exactly.
like, no.
Yeah, exactly. So once I started that, I was just like, this is amazing. And then doing the MMA and everything like that too, I just thought this is like, why didn't I do this earlier, basically? And Ryan was amazing. He really encouraging it. He was a great coach in the sense of nurturing like where I came from, my striking, but really encouraging me to learn all these new skills. And as I did, he was like, this is great. And we really learned to knit them all together. And now I'm finding myself definitely more of an MMA fighter now than I am just a striker, which is great.
I made this comment to you like a few weeks ago, just watching some footage of you. And like you very much obviously still strike, and utilize your amazing foundations that you have. However, you can tell, especially from all the wrestling and stuff that you've done as well, that your like stance has slightly changed.
Now.
Like it's definitely very much more sort of MMA,
Yeah.
and you can see that it's changed, but it's like it's there to allow you, like you can see that you've got this great base now to be able to do anything. Like you're very much well-rounded, like. And for someone that spent so much time doing striking, I guess the other thing too is like obviously you've had to finesse probably and change, especially defensively, a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
And I guess what we were talking about, that anything that you might need to sort of unlearn or change can be a little bit difficult. But I felt like the thing that was probably really good for you is that Peter didn't do traditional Muay Thai.
Yeah. And
so that probably translates a lot better than if you had have come out of a traditional Muay Thai
very much
gym.
So. I actually had this conversation with Peter recently because I went back to Peter's gym for this last camp, just to get a bit of extra striking, just a bit of extra work in. And we had that discussion actually, how he was like, we've never trained you guys to be a traditional Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Which means that often fighters that come out of that gym have been able to go into other things. Like there's people in that gym who fight boxing and Muay Thai, which are both very different sports when you think about it. The footwork and the head movement, everything's very different.
Even the way you punch, the way you punch
everything's different.
Is different.
Yeah. And then moving into MMA as well, again, everything's different. But because I wasn't just a very standard power Muay Thai stance, which is awesome. Like Muay Thai is fucking sick to watch. Like they just stand in front of each other and bang. But you can't stand like that in MMA because you're going to get taken down. You're going to get different things are happening.
And also, like, I feel like Muay Thai is part and parcel. Part of the idea of the sport too is it's two warriors standing in front of each other, and that's what it is. It is standing in front of each other. Whereas like MMA is like, I don't want to get hit if I don't have to. Like at the end of the day, I'm going to cut angles. Like even if they're standing and striking, you look at the striking very different. So like even when you look at kickboxing versus Muay Thai generally stand in front of each other, and it's like, who is the better fighter?
Yeah,
we'll stand here and find out.
Two warriors
just in front of
going at each other. And it's fucking awesome to watch. It's just so different.
Yeah, not saying like kickboxing or K1 or anything is not who's the better fighter, but what they'll do is they'll utilize different techniques to be like, who's the better fighter in terms of like that whole like including movement and like defensively being like, okay, I want to try and make sure that you can't hit me as well.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, at the end of the day, they're different sports.
Yeah.
They are different sports. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving into MMA, for me, the learning curve wasn't as steep as I thought it might be with the striking anyway. The ground game, I had to learn quick.
Yeah.
But give myself a bit of credit, which, I think a lot of people don't do enough, is I think I actually learned quite well, quite quickly.
Yes.
And even Ryan was saying, he's like, I haven't really seen a striker that has taken up grappling so quickly.
As I said to you from the beginning, I'm like, I genuinely think that you would love jiu-jitsu, but I feel like you would be naturally like inclined to just enjoy, but like, I don't know, enjoy it, pick it up and just be like, once you start doing it, like fall in love with it and just want to do it. And therefore that's what makes you get good at it.
Yeah, I love it.
I just feel like wrestling would be very you.
Yeah. And I found that too. Like the more I wrestle, I'm like, this is fucking cool.
Because it's that mindset thing too of how grindy it is.
It is.
And that you're like, I may not have the technical ability, but I know that I can just keep going nonstop. I will break you.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've always had as a fighter is I've never been the most talented. I'm not overly talented or gifted in the sense of my skill set. But what I've always had is the ability to just keep going. Like I will grind away. Even if I'm fucking exhausted, I'm going to make sure that you're more exhausted than me. I'm going to make sure that if
I'm not going to show
win, lose,
you're
or
going to
draw,
think I'm not exhausted.
And at the end of a fight, win, lose, or draw, I want you to look at me and be like, I never want to fight that guy again.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like we're very aligned. Like we've had very similar journeys, Tim and I, in fighting and outside of fighting as well. To be honest,
True.
We're like kindred spirits in that. And although like I kind of was always MMA, I have had a Muay Thai fight and I loved it. But obviously MMA is my passion. And it makes me so happy to see you in MMA and doing all these bits and pieces. And I like just see you like thriving. I can't wait till you have some opponents that actually show up. And I feel so sorry that you're having that issue.
That's been my issue for my whole fight career is pull outs. And end of the day, I can't begrudge the opponents too much when they pull out with an injury because we're not going to the gym playing chess.
We're not superhuman.
We're putting our bodies on the line and we're punishing our bodies every day in the gym and injuries happen.
And there's not enough money in the sport for us to not have normal lives outside of that. We're all working full-time jobs. We're all working
unless you're in the fucking top 10 of the UFC, you're working full-time. There's even guys in the UFC who still got full-time jobs. So they don't get paid enough.
So we have to physically be able to go back to work and mentally be able to go back to work, the next day. And I think people forget that. They're like, oh, yeah, you'll just have however much time off and all you do is train. You're like, no, I work a full-time job and train full-time and do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I'm getting up at 4 a.m. I'm training. I'm going to work. I'm training my clients. I'm going to work at night. Somehow maintaining a relationship.
Studying you as well. Yeah.
So it's a grind. Yeah, it's absolutely a grind. And like I have the goals, like the plans of also coaching the guys and also being a strength conditioning coach for MMA athletes. Like that's the kind of direction I'm going in. So juggling all these things, it's a whole thing.
It is, but it's worth it.
It is worth it. Yeah, I love it. And seeing the results like in myself personally, but also seeing the results in the effort you put into the people you train and seeing them flourish and grow and get results. That's like, it's so rewarding. Like the next step is once you step away from competing is to coach and seeing your fighters flourish. I think it's one of the best feelings.
It's very rewarding in such a different way. Like obviously fighting is very selfish and I'm not saying fighters are selfish people. Like that's not necessarily the person that you are, but you have to be selfish to be able to fight. Like, and not all the time, but like in terms of like, you have to put those goals and you have to make a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
To do it. Like you can't have one toe in the water with fighting.
No.
It's all or nothing. And if it's not all or nothing, you're setting yourself up for failure.
And for failure and to get hurt.
To get hurt.
Because if you're not putting 100% into your training, your opponent probably is.
Yeah.
And so you're going to come to a fight and you're going to get hurt. And then you don't want to do that again. And then it also makes the sport look bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get these guys who train their asses off fighting someone who's just looked like they walked off the street, it's like, why are these people fighting?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to do this sport or any combat sport, do yourself proud and put the effort in to do the best possible. And again, win, lose or draw, have the mentality of being like, you come out of that cage being like, I put everything into that. And your opponent will be like, I don't want to fight that person again. Yeah. That's the best feeling when they go, fuck, I don't want to fight you again, man. It's like,
Yeah.
cool. I did
I've done
good.
my job.
I did
Done
good.
my job.
That's all you need.
And how much does being, at the end of the day, fighting, the only reason it and any other sport exists is essentially for entertainment. Obviously, we have that competition now, like as in like part of the reason for having sport is having that competition. But where that all comes from instinctively is about entertainment, like at the end of the day. What do you think about that? Like, is that ever something that you think about as like, I want to be entertaining, or you don't care? Or is it something you think about when you look back at your fights and go, yeah, man, I am entertaining? Or like,
I love this question. This is a great question because at the end of the day, we are entertainers.
yeah,
We're entertainers through a violent sport. It's not that we're violent people, but it's a violent sport. And to make the cheesy comparison, it's the modern day gladiator.
100%.
We're in front of a bunch of people baying for blood. These people are baying for blood. They're literally there to see people bleed, get hurt, get knocked out. You get the biggest cheers from the biggest knockouts. It's that simple.
Cue just bleed graphic. Guy.
Just bleed. just bleed. But at the end of the day, you get the most views, the most clicks, the most likes, the most attention from the big stoppages, the injuries, even the bad injuries. People are like, you'll keep watching it. It's like looking at a bad car crash. You just keep looking. I think that we are entertainers, and I think it is a responsibility of fighters to make sure that you are fun to watch, but don't let that sacrifice your skill set.
No.
Do what you're really good at. For example,
But you can make your style entertaining.
exactly. A great example of this is Khabib. If you had Khabib's style on paper, you think that's kind of boring to watch. Takes you down and punches. But you watch him do it, and he's so good at it that it's just like you want to see him do it again and again because he's so fucking good at it.
But I think with him, even with Khabib, you look at his early fights. So even you look at his early fights, even in the UFC, like he almost lost. And also there was that discussion around where people thought he was boring, but then he changed and adapted because early on in his career, he was very wrestling focused and he didn't do much ground and pound. There wasn't much striking. And I'm not talking about on the feet. I'm talking ground and pound. And he would just wrestle. And then he realized, one, that doesn't help with the scoring criteria if you are in a close fight. Because damage or impact is, the key number one criteria. But secondly, entertainment-wise and earning fans and actually breaking people down and stopping them as well, like adding that ground and pound. And because he's so confident in his grappling and knowing, that how he's controlling someone, knowing when he can strike. And it was that natural thing to add into his game. As soon as he started doing that too, he was stopping people, he was breaking them. We watched him break their will, and he's talking to them while he's punching them.
Which is
and
unbelievable to watch. And then it's entertaining.
Yeah, he made his style super entertaining.
Like the best way to answer that question is I think they go hand in hand. I think the better you are at fighting and the more skills you incorporate into your fighting, and just becoming more elite at what you do makes you more entertaining. You become an entertaining fighter by being so good at it. And there's always going to be critics out there who say, oh, they're boring, they just do that. Like people would say, oh, GSP would just take you down. It's like, yeah, but he was so fucking good at it.
But every fight's different too.
Every fight's different. And he wouldn't just take you down. He would clinically pick you apart in areas that you thought you were good at. Khabib, again, adjusted his game, but added more things to his game, became an incredible, well-rounded fighter compared to what he was when he first started. And that's when he was beating guys who, on paper, you think probably should have lost to, but he was developing such an incredible skill set on top of what he already had. He became unstoppable. Even McGregor at his beginning, before, everything else now, amazing striker, incredible fighter, incredible high IQ. He was so entertaining, even though really you look at it and go, okay, he would knock guys out, but really wasn't like these massive brawls all the time, these things that people bang for blood. But he was so good that a fight might last only one round, but you were paying money for that pay-per-view to 100%. Watch him fight. He was also an incredible entertainer as well.
I also find it super relative too, because people always thought that GSP was the most boring fighter, and people complained all the time. But what do people say about GSP now? They call him the GOAT.
The GOAT. Yeah, exactly.
So
there's a
it's relative.
There's a fine balance between being an entertainer and being an incredible fighter and being both. Some people go too far one way. Some people go far the other way, and some people find that balance.
Well, I think you need to have a bit of something, and you got to show your personality in some way, shape, and form. Because at the end of the day, you don't just get the opportunities now from just being a good fighter. You have to be marketable to some extent, or at least have a reason why people would care about you, care to watch you. Whether that comes through your fighting, it comes through the person that you are, your personality, something like. At the end of the day, you can't be a shit fighter, and like people won't care about you. You know, because
I think a great example of this is Mighty Mouse. He was like severely underappreciated by the masses.
Yeah,
because he was incredible. He's one of the greatest of all time. I
agree.
He's like
100%.
up there in the GOAT
technical
conversation.
wizard.
Yeah, but he wasn't the bad guy. He wasn't the McGregor bad guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't the Colby Covingtons or people who talk a lot of shit. He just goes, I just want to go in and fight, man.
Didn't show a lot of his personality either. Like I feel like he's definitely come out a lot more, and now people got to know him.
Yeah. In the UFC, he was just like really good fighter, and he'd go home and play video games and stream on Twitch and hang out. And
I believe there was that time when he, the first time he fought Cejudo, when he was streaming and he was like, okay, guys, we're going to go do some things. Went out, had his fight.
Unreal.
Won, come back, hop straight back on the stream. Hey, guys, yeah, I'm back.
That's unreal. I think it's so good that he did that. He's crazy. But yeah, like the fact that now that weight class is so like in the public eye.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more successful he would be now if he was in there now.
In saying that, though, I feel like his stocks went up when he went to 1, and I feel like a lot of people know who he is more so than what they did when he was in the UFC. And 1 have done some really cool things.
1's done a great job.
That fight, because generally when we see like super fights or cross code fights or anything like those interesting kind of fights, they're always fighters. It's always fights made after people's prime. Yeah. And it's always sort of, that money grab of like the fights, cross divisions or whatever it is, that always happens well after people's careers are over. Whereas what we're seeing 1 do is they're making that happen with the literal best fighters that they have at the peak of their career. So seeing DJ and Rod Tang.
That was so good. I loved it.
The whole concept of that to me was amazing. And watching it, obviously so cool to see 2 athletes at the top of their sport fighting each other, but seeing like you watch it unfold in front of you, the mindset and the game plan completely different.
Yeah.
First round Muay Thai, and we're seeing DJ, one of the greatest MMA fighters who has great striking.
Awesome
striking, on his bike.
Yeah.
Absolutely on his bike. Didn't want anything to do with
Rod
it.
Tang is.
And the respect that they had for each other.
Yeah.
And then the second round begins and it's the complete opposite. Rod Tang is on his bike, doesn't want to bar, doesn't want to be even close. So like that's how high level both of these guys are, but also that they both don't have that like false sense of security that they're like, oh, I'm so good.
Best.
Like, yeah, they both respected the rule set and the skill sets that each other had under those different rule sets. And that's where we're seeing in the thing that why I really like that versus we're seeing people from MMA have boxing fights, or we're not really seeing it go back the other way, boxers have kickboxing fights or whatever. It's like at the end of the day, the person that spends all day, every day training for a particular rule set will generally always win that.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
No matter how good they are at whatever, like you can put the greatest boxer or Muay Thai guy in an MMA fight, and unfortunately, like there's just too many other things that they like can't possibly have enough time to train.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
Anyway. So that's I think that's a good time for us to circle on back and go, well, welcome to MMA.
Yes.
So glad you're here. Now you have had one MMA fight.
I got one.
You've managed to make it into the cage, and that's not for a lack of trying, as we've talked about. No, Dim has had a hard time getting anyone to step in the cage with him. If you guys know anyone that's that's willing to jump in the cage with Dim wanting a fight,
I'll take it. Welterweight or middleweight. I'll even come up to middleweight for you.
That's the call out, guys. You heard it here.
Let's go.
Australian or not even picky, like any promotion, anywhere.
I'm just happy fighting.
Dim just wants to fight.
Legit.
Get this man on a card.
I was so close to that last one, but unfortunately my opponent pulled out with like 5 days notice with an injury.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's crashing
But
though.
I have managed to get my first fight. It only lasted 8 seconds, but it's good enough. I did it.
And I'll pop the footage in here because you can watch the entire fight. So you may as well talk us through it because you talking us through it will probably take longer than watching the footage.
Yeah, it's great. So
went about as well as you could hope, I guess.
yeah. Funny. So a bit of a backstory with this fight was I was supposed to have a fight before that one. That one fell through, and then so we're looking for another fight. Nothing was coming up, and then in about 4 weeks' notice, promoters from Enduro said, "Hey, we've got you a fight. It's at 77 kilos. Can you make it?" And I looked at Ryan and I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it."
You're like, this seems familiar.
Yeah, I've been here before, so I was sitting pretty heavy, about 89 kilos. All right, well, let's do it. Dropped down to 77 kilos in 4 weeks. And then it was against a guy who was a good striker and established too. He's a black belt Taekwondo fighter, so good kicker. And you never want to discredit guys like that because they're tricky dudes in the cage. I mean, they got great skills.
They're throwing from really weird angles and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're hard to deal with.
And that was sort of the hype, I guess, for this fight is that you both had experience. So, like, even though it was your first MMA fight, both of you were coming into the cage with fight experience.
Yep, and he'd actually had two
couple of MMA
fights already, and he'd won them both. So he was more experienced than me when it comes to MMA, and a high level striker. So I was like, all right, cool, no worries. So prepping for a high level striker. The good thing about that was that fight camp was pretty good because we didn't have to worry too much about the takedown defense.
Yes,
and that, we were doing that, but we've only got 4 weeks to prep for this guy. Let's just focus on what you're good at and make it feel like this guy's running into a fucking brick wall.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, let's do that. And then, so prep for that fight was good. Weight cut was hard, but made it. Get into the cage across this guy, and he's supremely confident. Like, he walked out before me. Apparently, he was dancing and stuff and showing off, and I just, walk out because that's what I do. Just staunch out.
Staunch out.
I just do that. I just walk. I'm just like, I just want to get into the cage. I haven't got time to fuck around.
It's time for Tim staunch out.
It's my staunch out.
Someone needs to write a walkout song called the Staunch Out.
Yeah, let's do it. I need royalties for that. Thank you. And then so I just remember looking at him.
Can that be your fight name, please?
The Staunch Out?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't even got a fight name, hey.
That's what I'm saying.
I've never had a fight name either.
I feel like that's got something like that.
Maybe.
That's got to be
Could be it. Let's see. Let's set the people decide.
A version of that. Yeah. Let us know on the podcast, in the comments.
The Staunch Out.
Yeah, the Staunch Out.
If you watch my walkouts, you'll know why. I just... the whole time.
It's the male resting bitch face.
I have such resting bitch face. It's so bad. Even when I'm sitting across from the cage and they're calling everyone out, everyone's like, yeah, I'm here. And I'm like, I just want to fight. I'm like, can we just
hurry up,
get out of my way?
Anyway,
and that's pretty much what happened, actually. He's like, you ready? And I was like, I'm good. Fight. And I came out and I just gave him a 3-piece, just a jab cross hook and just fucking dropped him. His head bounced off the canvas.
Did you even get to land the hook?
I did.
I thought he was dropping.
He was falling as I hit him.
Yeah.
So the cross dropped him, and as he's falling, the hook got him just as he was hitting the ground. And then his head bounced off the canvas. I was ready to jump on, and then the ref jumped in.
You're like, I finally get to go to the ground.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, okay, that's it. Cool, I win. And
you're like,
that was the fight.
That was it?
Yeah, there was a bit of contention about the stoppage. Listen, it was a quick stoppage, I will say, but when your head bounces off the canvas, especially at amateur level, and I'm over you about to start beating on you, I feel like the ref is responsible to be like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Like,
at the end of the day, fighter health and safety is like number one, and that's what the referees are there to do.
Exactly.
And as you said, amateur fight, they're generally inclined to stop things
a little bit
faster.
Earlier.
Yeah,
and I get it. Like,
which
I say it again. Like, his
doesn't
head,
mean that was an early stoppage. That's not what I'm saying.
That's okay.
But,
his head bounced.
Yeah,
it's like he didn't just like stumble and he didn't slip. His head went bang.
And I'm sure you felt it. Like you felt like, when you hit someone, you hit them good.
Yeah. No, it was clean.
Yeah.
It was clean. And his coach had a bit of complaint about it. I was like, listen, man, like.
Well, at the end of the day, that's not you though. Yeah. Like you don't decide when a fight stops.
No, I was ready to keep going. Yeah. So anyway, that's what that was. And that was my MMA debut.
That's your MMA career so far. 8
A
seconds.
jab, cross, and a hook, and that's it. I've managed to throw right now in the MMA cage. A grand total of 8 seconds. So, yeah.
I mean, it must have felt good, but
it did.
I wonder, and I wanted to ask you this, was it also a bit kind of like, obviously you're happy and you didn't take any damage and you got like this cool stoppage and it looks cool and you got a highlight reel now of 8 seconds for a full fight. But is it also kind of a little bit of a letdown in some ways that you put all this training and everything in there and it's kind of like, I kind of wanted more? Like,
I get this question a lot, and my answer is always the same. No. I trained my ass off for that camp, and every camp I trained my ass off to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want to be able to do that every fight. And the reason why I train so hard is if I can't do that, I'm prepared for a 3 or 5 round war.
Yeah.
That's simple. But nothing is better than putting all that effort in for it to culminate into the perfect combination, which means that my training has been perfect. My hand speed is perfect. My timing is on point. Everything we've done for all this time has culminated into a single moment where I've managed to pull off the perfect punch or kick or submission quickly, which means our training was perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
so,
then you were able to bring that out of yourself and actually do it, because that's hard. Like, learning how to punch and throw a perfect punch.
It's hard.
Well, learning how to throw a punch is fairly easy in terms of learning it. Like, you can learn that, but learning how to actually land a punch, as in like throwing it to air or to pads or a bag, sure.
Easy.
But learning how to fight and actually be able to land that in a fight against a person who doesn't want to be hit, very hard.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
That's it. So you go through all this training and all this effort, and people are like, oh, all the effort for just 8 seconds. I'm like, no, all the effort for 8 seconds or for that one technique that I managed to pull off perfectly, that's the goal, you know. A war and a big battle, that's cool, you know, and everyone's like, wow, what a hard fight. But that also is tough on the body. But when you do something so perfectly well that it's flawless or as close to as possible, that's like the best feeling. To me, that's the best feeling. It's so rewarding. I look at that and go, everything I did in training camp came together in those 3 punches.
Yeah.
All that 100%. Work I did with Ty, shout out to Ty, one of our coaches. He's one of the best people I've ever met in my life, and he puts so much time into me. Those 3 punches, do you know how many times we threw that fucking combination in our camps? Over and over again. The jab, cross, hook with the footwork, the south. And if you like, it's 8 seconds, but if you watch the clip, I move into dominant full position as a southpaw. I parry his lead hand slightly and then come over with the jab, cross, hook, which is something we've literally been drilling over and over and over again.
And that's that instinct coming back out.
Perfect instinct. And that to me is credit to my coaches, credit to the time we put in. So all that time.
Credit to you though, because it doesn't matter. Your coach can tell you and set the plan, but if you're not doing it and obsessing over it and doing it 100 times, like if you just did it 10 times, you know, that you got to give credit to yourself as well, because you're the one that's putting that work in. Obviously they're putting their time, effort and work into you as well. So don't forget to thank yourself there.
That's hard. I often don't, but yeah.
And I think you've raised some really good points there as well. And I think that maybe that's something that other people don't understand too, is that the regular person will never understand what it feels like in there. And so 8 seconds to someone watching is like, oh, I blinked and I missed the whole fight. Like, not boring, but kind of like, oh, anticlimactic. Like,
yeah, like, I wanted to see more.
Yeah, so like, but then like it's like, they also don't understand what it is like in there. 8 seconds, like, you are so hyper-focused and the whole world does not exist while that's happening. Yeah. And, like, everything that your entire life has been dedicated to that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, why it's so satisfying when you do something like that, because all that time and sacrifice you put in, and it was just, like, again, flawless. You're like, that's all I could ask for. And it is the best feeling when you get a finish and you land something that you've been drilling for so long. You're like, the process works. You trust the process, trust your coaches, trust yourself, and it works.
So I know you have a very supportive family.
Yes.
I'm assuming they were all there in attendance.
Mostly.
Most.
Mum's never been to a
she's
fight.
Not a yeah.
And I always tell my mum, I don't want you coming to my fights because I think she'd have a heart attack.
I think so too. She probably cry the entire time.
Absolutely, 100%. It'd be awful. It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah. My mum loves it. She loves going to the fights. She loves watching it. She loves being there. It's her whole thing. But my partner Jared's mum, she's very similar to Mama G. She's very much hates it. She has actually enjoyed coming to a couple of my fights though, and she's like, can you make it over quicker?
You just knock her out.
She's like, because you know how like at a fight show the table's around, and so someone always has the chair that faces away from the cage. She's like, that's my one.
Yeah, fair.
She was like, and I thought I was good because I sat on the table. I was like, I can sit on the chair that faces away from the cage. And then she's like, except there was a big screen behind. And she's like, I don't know where to look. So shout out to Nicole. Thank you for coming to my fights. Even though that it's clearly not fit for you. You don't enjoy it. I appreciate that. But so tell me about after that fight on the night, and you know, going and chilling with your family and celebrating with food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
What did they think?
My family has always been pretty supportive of the fighting and what I've been doing. Obviously, mum worries.
Of course,
she's a mum. Dad, my dad's dad. He just is like, yeah, my son's a fighter. He likes it. My dad loves MMA and fighting, so he fully supports it. My sister loves it. She loves it. She lives vicariously through me. My sister, she's obsessed, so she loves it. Whenever I'm in a fight camp, she's like, oh my God, yes, awesome. Like, she loves it.
I know. I assume she would have prepared something, you know, for you.
They always do.
Always figure out what you feel like eating after is the celebratory dinner.
Yeah, always. The week after a fight, I go to my mum and sister's house, and like they're always like, what do you want to eat? I was like, I'll give them a dish and I'll make it extra, and it's the best. We have always extra. And like last fight camp,
If you've ever seen the food that Anna and Gina
my
make,
God,
you would be asking if you could like join the family.
Actually, though, it's the best. I remember like that for that fight. During fight camp, I was like probably halfway through the camp, and I was cutting weight, and it was someone's birthday. I think it actually may have been my mother's birthday. And we went out to the house for dinner, and obviously I couldn't really eat much.
Yeah.
So they had this feast on, and I was just staring at it. And I had
Like, I want that.
I had small portions of some food, and I got to like eat a little bit, but obviously not indulge.
Yeah.
And then for the cake, for the birthday cake, they made a Bombalaska ice cream cake, and I just had a bowl of berries.
I remember seeing that on your story.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, poor Dim.
Yeah, and my family were like, we don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
That is
That's
so hard. It's so hard. And I was
hard
like,
when you're a foodie and you fighting and foodie doesn't go
100%.
together
No, it's
very well.
hard.
But
my mum and Anna were like, after you fight, we'll make this for you. So they made me a Bombalaska, and I can't remember what food we had, but it was something outrageous. And
it would have been good.
I went to town. I went to town on that, and probably overindulged a little bit, but it was totally worth it.
So that brings me to my next question. You have actually recently started a new Instagram page.
Yes, Fighting Fit Foodie.
Yes, yes. Which, as we just said, it is a difficult balancing act when you love food and you love flavor and you love all of that, the joy that comes with eating.
So true.
And when you're from a family too, where eating is part of celebration and eating is part of the culture and family and like love, kind of like it's like I cook for you and I like, you know, we share a meal together and stuff. That's where it can be hard, and I guess too, because you still want to be a part of like everything.
Yeah.
But it's like then you're also putting yourself in those situations that are difficult.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of fighters, I think, especially early on until they become more used to dealing with it and get better at dealing with it. You know, miserable human beings when they're first learning how to cut weight and being around people and probably don't go and do stuff anymore. Like they don't have family time, or they don't go out for dinner, or they don't go and spend time with their friends because they're like, well, I'd rather just avoid the situation because it's uncomfortable rather than still being able to have those interactions, you know, because it is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, so that new Instagram page I started, the whole point of it is to show that food and fitness, obviously when you're in a fight camp, there's certain restrictions because you have a weight class to make. I understand that. Very much so.
Eating for performance
and
too.
eating performance, but also you're allowed to enjoy your food. You can also be really fit and look great and enjoy your food. You don't have to restrict yourself to fucking chicken and broccoli. You don't have to. And there's plenty of pages out there who do that, who show that. But I'm just adding my own little voice to it and showing that you can go out and enjoy your burger, but maybe just like, you know, refrain on getting the extra large fries. If you're looking to lose a bit of weight, if you're not, go crazy. Eat and train. Don't diet and exercise.
But also that eating is like part of your lifestyle rather than a diet.
Yeah.
Like if you make it part of life and that idea that like, okay, every now and again you can go all out and have what you want.
Just not every day.
Yeah.
Just not every meal.
Yeah.
You know, eat for performance and you can enjoy that double cheeseburger. But also that double cheeseburger is actually not too bad when it comes to fuel. If you're training a lot, it's just good fats, proteins, and carbs. Really, it all breaks down to that.
Exactly.
Enjoy yourself. And it's coming from me who has really struggled with a relationship with food since I was about 14. So my whole life has been a battle enjoying big meals and big food because I have been this awful relationship when it comes to food and weight gain and like not that I've ever been fat. It's a big struggle with
fighters too. It's
exactly.
Common trend,
very
common theme.
Yeah.
Especially even with bad relationship with food, and that food exercise dynamic and then like self-worth and stuff, because people see photos of us at weigh-ins and fight day, and especially at weigh-ins, and that seems
super
to be
shredded
and they're the pictures that, you know, promotions use. That's the footage and the like video photos and stuff that everyone uses, and on fight day, which you're generally not as shredded as weigh-ins, but you're still in peak shredded condition, right? And that's not realistic. You don't sit at that or even close to that.
No.
In general life. So like, again, another mental hardship that is common with fighters is a relationship with food, relationship with body image as well. And, you know, sometimes, you know, people struggle with that and their worth, you know, outside of that. But you need to, I guess, also having that understanding of your body and fueling from a different mindset of like, one, enjoying your food so it's a lifestyle, but also with body image and stuff like that is understanding that, okay, how I look has nothing to do with how I perform and how I feel. I feel better. I perform better when I'm heavier, you know, because you become a bit fragile when you're in that sort of end state as well.
100%.
People don't see that. They just see you as a shredded
monster.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you're so shredded, you're so fit. I'm like, yeah, but I'm actually weaker at that point.
Like I'm only at this point for like an hour.
An hour max, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, like the self-worth feeling of being like super shredded has been like my biggest challenge to overcome as a young man, but also as an athlete and a fighter.
Yeah.
All three of those things together comes to be one big sucker punch as growing up. For me personally, that's been my biggest struggle, not just as a fighter and an athlete, but as a young man growing up, that self-image and that again, relationship with food and eating and body image and that kind of stuff has been the biggest struggle I've had. And continue to have. I still continue to battle that even now. And again, trying to make a more positive outlook for myself, but also other people, I think is a super important thing that people still struggle with. And adding my own voice to it is always, I think, you can never have enough people saying it's good to eat and it's okay.
And I think that's the other thing too. I think you're a bit like me in terms of part of the reason you do it is to help other people.
Yeah,
but
100%.
Through helping the other people actually tends to help you.
Yeah.
Like you won't sit there, like it's very hard to help yourself.
Yeah. For me, it's been impossible to help myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a byproduct of you helping other people and talking about these things and putting that effort in and being like, I want to be that role model for you to show you, well, you're actually doing it to yourself. Like you are actually helping yourself.
Yeah.
But you and I don't, like that's never a goal, and that's not something like it. It's like the last person I'm going to think about or focus on is me. But how I best help myself is helping other people. Like when I help other people with their problems or issues, like I can work through my own. Like not directly like that, but in that scenario that you're like, I want to be that role model to show people, you know, that
That's exactly right.
it's a
Being a role
normal
model
thing.
is the biggest thing. And being like honest, be like being a role model, but not, and some people are like, I want to be a role model and be like, this is how you should do it because I do it. It's like, no, like this is how I'm trying to do it to
Find
be better.
what works for you.
Find what works for you. It's like being that role model that's raw and honest and being like, I struggle with this every day. Yeah. Every single day. Every meal, I'm like, oh, maybe I overate. Yeah. Maybe I ate too much food. Maybe I should have a little bit less today because I don't want to get fat. And it's like, and as stupid as that sounds.
Nah, same here.
As stupid as that sounds, I think to myself, fuck, I don't want to be fat. Or if I eat too much, I'm going to get fat. And like, I train every fucking day. And it's still in the back of my mind. Oh, what if I'm a couple kilos heavier? What if my abs aren't quite visible today because retaining a bit of water?
What if this is going to be the difference between me being able to make weight or not?
And that's exactly right. Oh no, what if I can't make weight?
What if I feel like shit in there because I've had to cut extra weight or like I didn't do something perfectly or, like measuring things and weighing things and stuff. Like it is part of the process. You do have to do it and weighing yourself.
Yeah, and weighing yourself is, I think that can be the biggest thing for a lot of people where they can spiral is when the numbers don't reflect the effort you think you're putting in or you don't think it reflects the effort you're putting in, then you spiral. And I've gotten better with the numbers on the scale, except in weight camp I get a bit obsessive, but mostly because I'm like, I just need to make weight, man. But growing up, I was pretty obsessed with the number on the scale. And it was funny because now that I talk to my clients as a PT and as a coach, I tell them not to obsess with the number on the scale. I'm like, you're training heaps. You might actually get a little bit heavier because you're putting on some muscle mass. But if you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, oh, wait, I look leaner.
It's funny,
it's hard to separate the number from the results.
And you can objectively say that to them.
But then,
and you can know this objectively, but you can't separate it from yourself.
The brain is so stupid. And like we just can't. Internally you can't accept it, but then you can give that advice to other people. And
I think this is another thing that's super important, and one thing that I'm loving the journey on the podcast is speaking to people and myself being open and honest, because that's what I want to do. Is that the hard thing and the barrier and something that we're trying to break through in combat sports is and in Australia we're known, especially males, but in general as a culture and as a nation, Australians are typically very stoic.
Yeah,
we don't show emotion because it's considered weakness.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's why I guess now we're also trying to change that landscape. Not so much talking about athletes and combat sports, but in general life, because that's where people battle things and we don't know, like mental health issues and
I think it's a huge thing
and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's changing that landscape. And I mean, like, I think it's important to talk about because if we're thinking that it's, like that phrase, it ain't weak to speak, because, we're really bad as a nation for rewarding being stoic and thinking that we need to be. And I feel like fighting in general is like that as well. People think showing any kind of emotion or vulnerability is, a weakness, whereas I actually feel like it's a strength. If you can openly talk and say, I struggle with all these things.
I think it's very important.
I think it's very powerful too.
I think so, yeah.
Because the other thing too is it's unlike any other sport because we all train individually, we all train differently, and it's all secretive and behind closed doors. So people don't talk about this stuff. So a lot of fighters actually think that they're the only one that deals with these things.
And you talk to them and every fighter will have these emotional issues. And you talk to a lot of fighters and the amount of anxiety they have before fights. Like some of the greatest fighters that I've ever met, they're in the back room fucking terrified.
Well, Cowboy Cerrone has that beautiful piece where he talks about like literally the guy that's had like almost the most amount of fights in the UFC and, great performances. Everybody knows this guy. He's had so many fights. He literally throws up before every fight.
Yeah.
Every fight.
Yeah, the anxiety, the fear, it's all real. And you could be sitting there in the back room with your gloves, like your hands wrapped up, your gloves on, about to walk out thinking, I'm so fucking scared. This guy's going to bash the shit out of me.
Or thinking like, why am I doing this?
That guy's in the other room thinking the exact same thing. You're both walking out there being like, fuck. And you can put on a strong face and you walk out to tough man music and you can have the stoic look on your face. But I guarantee you his heart rate or her heart rate is going through the roof. Their adrenaline's pumping. They're fucking got butterflies in their tummy, just like you. The emotions are real, and no, you're not fighting robots. You're fighting humans.
And this is the thing that I think people who don't fight but watch don't realize. Like, the people that you're watching on the screen are real human beings.
They're
They're
people,
someone's
yeah.
friends, family, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, whatever. Like they are real people and there are real life consequences to this, but also they're not robots. They have feelings and, we're obviously all human and we have bad performances and we have things going on that we that impact our performance and that kind of stuff. But like, as you were saying, like, we all have those moments. Like Stipe, I remember Stipe, like years ago was like, yeah, every time I'm about to walk out for a fight, I'm thinking like, this is probably going to be my last fight. I don't know if I can keep doing this.
I've had
every
that
time.
almost every fight camp. I'm like, maybe I'll just call it quits now. Like, this is so hard. I'm so
struggle with
anxious.
that.
I'm not sleeping. Sometimes I wake up because
Why am I doing this to
dream
myself?
of fighting. I wake up and I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this to myself? Like, and I mean, the amount of times that we've been in camp, even like training other fighters, and I think this is one thing that I find very special about the gym that I train at now is the vulnerability that I've experienced with the other guys that fight. I haven't had that at other gyms before. We're very open with each other,
breaking down those barriers
and
again.
Especially with men and like one of the young fellas. I won't say my name just in case, but a few times in his camp, so he's just like sat down and had a bit of a cry. He's like, I'm just not feeling good, and we'll talk about it, and it's okay to cry, man. Like, it's good, get your emotions out. Last fight camp, I had a day where I was feeling like shit, and I had a chat with Ryan. I was like, we need to train, man. Like, he's like, you're not training today, dude. And we just sat down, and I just had a bit of a cry because I was just feeling very emotional, very tired, and this is like 3-4 weeks out from the fight. And we just had a great chat. I had a bit of a cry because I felt like I'm not training today. So I feel like I'm letting you down, letting myself down, and my opponent's training right now and I'm not. So I'm going to get my ass beat. And he was like, dude, you train 7 days a week. You probably need a rest day.
Yeah.
This is one of the days you need a rest day.
And you need a coach that cares that much to tell you, because as a fighter, we're going to show up, and every day that you don't, you feel like you're letting everyone else down. And
I have this, like, sometimes an unfortunate mentality of, I need to train more than him, so I'm waking up early, I'm getting training when he's not training. But that also can be detrimental when you put to the point where you're doing so much, you're not recovering. And recovering is the most important thing that even I'm still learning now, because I become obsessive in my fight camps. I become
Me too.
obsessed. And this is the thing. I think it's important to be obsessed, but there's also, I feel like you need people in your life when you're, particularly in fight camp, who can kind of
make those decisions,
hold you back for just a minute and be like, listen, you need a rest day. They need to make decisions for you, because for me, I can't make the decision for me. I'll finish a 3-hour fucking training session MMA and be like, I didn't do enough. I got to go for a run. And Ryan's like, don't you fucking go for a run. Like, don't you do it. Okay, cool, no worries. And that day he pulled me aside. He's like, we're not training today. Like, just have a coffee, sit down, have a chat. All right, go home, get some sleep. And then I came in the next day. And I felt amazing. I felt good. Like, he's like, look how present you are today. Like, look how energetic you are.
You wouldn't have had that if you didn't.
Yeah. And like that session was like, I was smacking pads. Like, I was on point. I felt fast, felt happy, felt strong. Even after an hour and a half of like 5-minute rounds, I just felt, I was sitting there, we're having a chat. He's like, look how present you are, man. Like, you look so good. And I was like, yeah, I needed yesterday.
And like, that's often like not just a physical thing. It's probably also a mental thing where you had a bit of time where you also could have a break.
Yeah, it was absolutely mental.
And these are the things too, again, that's actually really common. There is a point in every fight camp and every fighter I've ever spoken to where we get completely broken down, and it's usually that like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And every fighter I've spoken to, it's around that time.
Yeah, because you're starting to really restrict calories a little bit more. You're cutting the weight.
Volume of training has gone up, but the mental capacity as well. Like, when you get closer to the fight, you're like, all right, work's done. Like, we're focusing on this. You've got your different things that you focus on, but out there, it's still not close enough to be in that, it's nearly fight time kind of thing. And it's not far enough away that you're like, I'm just doing skill development. I'm focusing on all these things. It's like that middle ground, but also your volume of training's gone up. Your like calories have gone down, and like the wear and tear on your body has gone up. Like, this is where you're being broken down, and you're probably still doing your sort of hard sessions, like your sort of shark tanks, and your, like you're emptying your tank and you're doing that over and over again, and you're literally breaking yourself down in that point of time, and you feel like crap, your body. And I think this is the hard part, because when all of those things come together, what you can normally do when you're fat and happy.
I love being fat and happy.
When you're fat and happy and you've got the extra weight and you've got the extra energy and you've got all those things and you haven't got quite as much volume. Like when you come to this point in time, that 2 to 3 weeks out, and you're battling all these things, but you still have this mental thing that you should be performing the way that you do, you know, outside of that or earlier in your fight camp. And so in your mind, you're like, I'm going backwards, so I need to put in more work. And it's this like cycle. And then you're like, you've got emotions running and like your body is going through so much, and your mind, because you would be like me, you obsess. So like any moment that you're not actively having to concentrate specifically on something that you're doing in life. So maybe you're focused solely on your job or whatever. Any moment, any fleeting moment where you're not fully focused on something else, all the thoughts about the fight coming back in. You think about the fight. You think about anything to do with that fight in every spare moment that you have.
Yeah, it's all encompassing.
Whether it's the fight, you're thinking about the fighting, you're thinking about what techniques, you're thinking about the punches, you're thinking about the kicks, you're thinking about your defense, you're thinking about your offense, you're thinking about your game plan, you're thinking about your food. Did you eat too much? Did you eat? Did you eat enough? Your recovery. You're thinking literally every moment,
every aspect.
And I don't think people understand that too. And that's that mental load, because you're thinking about that all the time, and that's where you get sort of beaten down to. Your body's gone, but your mind is just like exhausted.
It's exhausted. You're exhausted in every sense of the word. And again, having those people around you that can sort of see that for you, because you might be exhausted completely, but you're still obsessed.
And you're going to give it everything you've got.
And you're going to get out of bed and you're going to drag yourself to the gym and you're going to try to do a session. You're going to feel like shit when it's like your coach, like a couple of times I really rocked up to the gym and I've walked in and I've already done 2 hours in the morning. I've done my strength conditioning and I get to the gym and Ryan's like, go home. I was like, no, I got to train. He's like, dude, you already done 3 hours today. You need to go home. Come in tomorrow. We'll do the session tomorrow. And
creating that environment around you of people that care and are looking for your best interest.
Yeah, and my partner was instrumental in that too. Like she's so good at understanding like when I need to rest before I know. She's like, no, you're resting. Go to sleep. Go to bed early. Like don't train in the morning or like something like that. Or she'll make sure like I'm eating enough. She's like, I understand you have a meal plan, but this is what you need right now. She's also got a nutrition degree, so it's like watching me cut weight though, she fucking hates it. Yeah. It goes against every rule she knows.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle, but also she understands. So she's been phenomenal. Like a lot of the times, I probably couldn't do what I do now without her.
Well, this is one thing again, super common theme as well. Any fighters that I know that have a partner have the most supportive partner generally. Like anyone with a successful relationship definitely has a supportive partner, and they generally say that they could not do it.
No, absolutely not
without them.
Yeah, you need your partner when you're in a camp. Like you said before, it's a selfish thing because it's so self-focused, because you have to be. End of the day, you're trained to get into a cage with someone else who's trying to beat the hell out of you. Mm-hmm. So you have to be a bit selfish in the sense that you need to train really hard for these things. You can't just rock up to a fight and be like, yeah, I did a couple of boxer size sessions, she'll be right. It's not going to fucking work that way.
No.
So it is a bit selfish, but have a partner who understands that and is like, I will pick up the slack in the relationship to support you and help with dinner and do all these things and make the meals when you're so tired, you're on the couch.
You've got nothing to give.
Nothing to give. But that's okay because they get it, and because they know after that fight, it's back to equal ground, and then like fuck, they might have something on, and then you do the same thing. You know, having that supportiveness or that supportive partner is like it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And even if it's not a partner, if it's family, like if you're a young fighter and so you haven't got a partner, or whatever, you're not in a long-term committed relationship. When your family supports you in that way, it's exactly the same. You know?
It is.
Or even if you have like a really close friend, some kind of support network that can help you get through it is of paramount importance. And when I first started fighting, I had like my family was great, but they didn't really understand. So I did a lot of it by myself. And all the weight cuts I did by myself. I didn't have anyone in the sauna with me. I was cutting weight by myself for every fight in Muay Thai.
Just letting you guys know that's super dangerous, and you should always have someone with you. Learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, don't do that.
And that's why I think both of us are very avid about all of those things.
My first MMA fight, Ryan was there every step of the way of the actual weight cut, like cutting the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to his house and his hot water system got busted.
Oh,
so
no.
we came here. This is the night before. This is when the actual weight cut was happening, so proper. And I'd been doing all the stuff properly, so I only had a few kilos to lose, but it's still pretty hard. It's 4 weeks notice.
It's never easy.
And he was there every step of the way. I was in the bath. He was making sure the water was hot enough. He was putting hot water in. He was helping me get out of the bath, towel wraps on the couch, everything. In and out for hours until I made weight. And then he came pick me up in the morning. We went to his house, made sure I had half a kilo to lose. So I went in the sauna. He was there with me the whole way. And I actually remember saying to him, this is the first time I've ever been in a weight cut where my coach, let alone anybody else, is there with me every step of the way. And he couldn't believe it. He was like, wait, what?
That scares me. And see, in MMA, it's very common, for, your coach, your partner, someone to be there with you. Obviously, I guess the other thing too, you've cut weight before and you have cut a fair bit of weight before. But I guess the difference in Muay Thai and even boxing, kickboxing, K1, there's a weight division every kilo and a half.
Yeah, there's big gaps in MMA.
Yeah. So
I would like to see more weight classes in MMA.
Same. And I think that's how you combat a lot of missing weight and a lot of health issues. Obviously people are still going to cut weight.
Yeah.
And obviously things are a lot better now with a lot more actual science out there and people and professionals and that. But people are still doing it wrong. And the issue is if you don't feel if you in peak condition sits in the middle of a weight division or sort of slightly closer to the next weight division up, but if you walk into a fight under that weight division or even at that weight division, the person you're fighting is cutting down from significantly bigger.
Yeah, big
so
people.
You can't have one person not and one person cut.
Yeah, it's a hard one to do. So I'm kind of in that. So I'm kind of in a position where I'm probably a little bit on the bigger side for welterweight.
Yeah.
But I'm on the small side for middleweight, right?
Yeah.
So I will happily
make
fight
that
in
decision,
both.
yeah.
I'll happily fight in both. Right now I'm fighting welterweight mostly because that's where I'm at. But it's a hard cut because I walk around at 88, 90 kilos down to 77. It's a pretty big.
But the people at middle are you generally cutting down from
95 to 100.
Yeah.
They're big guys. I'm fuck,
Huge.
where do I make this distinction? So I would like to see more weight classes in MMA, and I don't understand why they refuse to. I feel like it's a strange sort of thing that MMA is kind of holding on to, and I don't get it. Adding, it doesn't have to be a whole heap, but you don't have to have every kilo and a half, but even a weight division at 81 kilos between 77 and 84.
Yeah.
And then another one in between.
Well, we see the jump, the jump gets bigger and bigger the bigger the weight divisions. Which, then people are like, oh, well, it's not that bad in the lower ones. You're like, yeah, but it is because they're smaller humans.
You got less to cut anyway.
But that percentage of their body mass is still just as big, if not bigger, because they're smaller humans.
Yeah, you still got to look at it as percentages, and it's still quite a big percentage of your body weight. So
I have jumped around weight divisions in MMA, and so I've fought anywhere from 70 kilos to 56 kilos, and that is just insane. I couldn't do that without our dietitian, right?
The man, he's so good.
Yeah, but I can tell you, being hit by big people sucks. And there's such a big difference. But in the grappling component, we see people, in the striking disciplines jump around weight divisions a fair bit, and it's not as big of a deal. It is. It still is. It's still difficult, but the difference when you've got someone with a significant weight advantage on you,
it's huge
in these strength exchanges, especially on top of you. Obviously, Muay Thai has a clinch, and you feel the difference in size within that. But now imagine that they're on top of you. So
I'm a strong guy. I train, and my strength conditioning I feel is quite on point. So I'm pretty strong for my size. And I've had guys that I train with who are great fighters are like, dude, fuck, man, your strength is unbelievable in the clinch. But even if I get someone who's 5-10 kilos heavier than me, who is relatively untrained, and we're grappling, I can barely move him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just physics, and it's so much harder to move that person.
And that's why there's weight divisions.
That's why there's weight divisions, exactly.
And we see, and I think the argument in MMA for some reason is that if we add more divisions, then it will water down each one of those divisions.
I think it's
and
so
I'm like,
dumb.
I think the opposite, because what you have is people fighting in the weight divisions that will work for them, and you'll have more entertaining fights because
You get better performances.
So you have a look at, for example, lightweight and welter. So lightweight is considered the most stacked division in any promotion, in every promotion worldwide. It's where the vast majority of fighters will fight, but you have a number of fighters that will jump and bounce between lightweight and welterweight. And the reasoning behind this is it seems that a lot of fighters of that size and shape, of that stature, struggle to make 155.
Yeah.
But are way too small at welter,
Yeah.
like at 170, like way too small. So like there is a whole range of fighters in the two most exciting, like arguably the most exciting divisions, that don't have a home anywhere. So like you look at Cowboy, amazing fighter.
Yeah.
Struggled making 155.
Yeah.
But was way too small at
Just wasn't
170.
quite- yeah.
If you gave him, and there was so many people, and there is so many people in that same situation, I actually think you'll get better fights out of all of those fighters if you had a division somewhere in the middle.
Couldn't agree more, honestly. Like you're asking these guys, and this these big weight divisions, like big gaps in weight divisions, actually encourages more dangerous weight cutting. Everyone's talking about how dangerous weight cutting is. It's like, yeah, but you're encouraging it by not having extra weight divisions. So you're cutting your nose to spite your face here.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't have to have a division every kilo. Fuck, you just have it every like 4 kilos, like something a little bit. Just to
Less.
cut it down a little bit less.
Or even looking where natural body types sort of sit. Like,
Yeah.
like there are general peaks of where the natural population of certain sized human beings roughly sit. Like,
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem like we're really there.
No, I honestly think MMA in particular is very far from that. I think MMA is quite behind in the weight class conversation. I think we're stuck in our ways where it's like just cut weight and be better.
And it leads to two things. So it leads to obviously scary weight cuts that people do, which have long-term health implications and
Absolutely,
stuff like that.
ramifications of it long term.
But the second thing is that the penalties aren't big enough for missing weight and using missing weight as a strategy or an advantage, because people do that. They go, well, I'm just not going to quite make it, and I'm going to do that on purpose.
Fuck it.
And especially when in the pay structure where, you know, you get a certain amount of money to show up and a certain amount of money to win or whatever, or in general, you know, like that's generally how it goes in the bigger promotions. You got a certain amount of money to show up and fight, but you get more money,
to win,
and half of your income comes from winning. So you want to win. And if you only have to give, you know, 5% of your money to someone, but you're going to make double your money by winning, like that's not not harsh enough.
I personally think that if you miss weight, unless you have a valid medical reason, even like
Short notice fight where you're stepping up or
That's
something
fine.
like that, a little bit different.
But in that case, honestly, if you got a short notice fight,
shouldn't take it if you can't make it.
do a catch weight.
So yeah, if you have a short notice fight, you were saying that you think that the promotion should give you the opportunity to have a catch weight.
I think so. I think
Or
say
should be
for example
conditioned-
you have a week's notice. Should be like a week's notice fight. If you're stepping up to fight
Yeah.
someone, first of all, you should be like, well done, mate.
Compensated.
Good on you, compensated. But also given the option for a catch weight, and like you have to have like a massive gap. But if say it's
I think that's fair
77
to
kilos,
both people though,
Yeah.
because it's unfair for the other person to make the weight
yeah,
and have someone knowingly not make the weight.
yeah, exactly. So I think catch weights are great when it comes to that short notice fights, and it discourages rapid unhealthy weight cuts.
And
But that could also be taken away by just adding more weight classes. I'm just saying.
exactly,
So.
100% agree. And that's the thing. That's the other thing is that you'd have people be able to take potentially more fights, or short notice fights or whatever, or be more active in general. Because that's the thing. If someone were to offer you a short notice fight at welter, like you can't take that. But you also still don't want to take a short notice fight really at middle either.
Yeah,
Exactly. If someone offered you a catch weight or like there was a weight division in between it where you're like, well, I can still cut a little bit, like I can still make sure that I, in peak condition, obviously a bit heavier, but still a peak condition, It's not like I'm just rolling in heavy and fat,
exactly.
Because that's not
selfishly,
helpful.
a perfect weight division for me would be 81 kilos.
Yeah.
I would just like thrive at 81 kilos.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so many people in that same situation. It's just like having to make those decisions to sacrifice something in either way of going up or down. Like when you know that there's somewhere that suits you the best. I think that's hard and that's rough.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I have a couple of quick fire questions for you. Some of them I know the answers to straight away. Obviously, punch or kick.
Kick. Surprise, surprise.
Okay. BJJ or wrestling?
Wrestling.
Yeah. Okay.
Wrestling.
Striking or grappling?
Striking.
Yeah. I was wondering if we got.
I love grappling.
The
I do. I really enjoy it. But I'm a striker at heart.
Submission or ground and pound?
Oh, I'm gonna go ground and pound.
Yeah, satisfying.
Yeah, I love a good submission, but I don't know. Sometimes just fucking just going to town.
I love that. I guess one other thing that I wanted to ask, what is like maybe not the best advice, but like obviously we talked about what Peter always said to you walking out before a fight, and it's something that stuck with you. Are there any other sort of things like that sort of stuck with you that you would like to be able to impart to other people?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to fighters, I think one of the most important things after your skill development and training for the sport is always prioritize your gas tank, because you can be the biggest, strongest, and most skillful guy in there, but if you haven't got the gas, I guarantee you're losing that fight.
And that's the one thing you can control in a fight.
Yes.
You can't control anything else in a fight.
And you might have what we're talking about before. You might have that dog in you, but that dog will die if it's got no gas. Because if you can't hold your hands up, if you can't move, if you can't do anything, you're getting towed up.
It doesn't matter how tough you are.
Yeah. That's it. And other than that, trust the process.
It sounds corny, but like...
I know how corny it sounds.
It is what it is.
You just need to trust the process. If you're fighting and if you want to get anywhere in it, you need to trust the process, trust yourself, and trust the training. Show up, do the fucking work. That's it.
And any advice on finding a gym or how to start in the sport if you're someone that's sort of interested?
Yeah, cool. Great question. And I think when it comes to finding a gym, I personally think find a gym where there aren't any stupid egos, where there's no encouragement of fighters punishing each other in the sparring just for the sake of sparring hard. Like there's hard sparring and then there's good hard sparring. And if you're just going out there and like the coaches are encouraging you to beat the shit out of each other and you're getting hurt and there's often injuries, stay the fuck away from that gym. Don't go there.
Don't be afraid to go somewhere else either, though.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't feel loyal to a place that you've only just rocked up to, and don't feel afraid to try new places. Always look for a place where you feel at home. That's the most important thing. When you walk into a gym and feel encouraged and you feel like you can grow there, that's the most important thing.
Like, don't get us wrong. Starting in combat sports can be confronting and you can be nervous and you can feel uncomfortable in that regard, that you don't know what you're doing and it's difficult and, that kind of stuff. But in terms of feeling comfortable with the people and the trainers and the coach and the type of training and understanding, I guess, the difference between that can be really difficult as well.
It is difficult. And I think like the most important thing when you're looking for those aspects in the gym is how do the coaches talk to their students? How do they treat their students? Do they treat them like a number, or do they treat them like a human being who each fighter has individual things they need to work on? And do those coaches cater for those fighters themselves? And do they help those fighters grow in the areas they need, and they just throw them in and be like, fucking good luck, and they only focus on, say, one fighter who's the best fighter in the gym? That's a big one actually for me, is do the coaches encourage all fighters to train well, or do they just like brush you off and just focus on one? That one's a big red flag. Don't go to a gym that does that.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for anyone that sort of is interested in getting started, or even if you don't want to fight and you just want to find somewhere to train. Like, I think that applies in general. So I wanted to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast. We could talk for literal hours. Like, it's been a long journey, and it's been so fun to sort of have like careers sort of alongside each other, and sort of see you finally get into MMA has been
great.
My greatest joy. I'm like, this is the greatest thing. And we actually got to train together yesterday, which was just
so much
fun.
It's been years since we trained together.
It's been a while, and being able to do it knowing that it was MMA.
She punched me in the face so nicely. I went to throw my left kick, and she went smack. And
I was like, boop.
And I was like, you were timing that. You're like, I was waiting for you to throw that kick.
I was waiting for you to throw the
fuck,
kick
that was
hard.
good. Yeah, that was really fun. I had a great time. It was really cool.
I did. I look forward to more of it in the future.
We will be.
Before we end though, this is your time to thank people, shout people out, let people know how they can find you.
Yep.
Because I'm telling you guys now, he is one to watch. You need to follow his journey. So Dim, let the people at home know where to find you, how to watch and be a part of it.
So you can find me on Instagram, mostly Dimitri.ludusfit, Ludusfit. And I'd also like to, first of all, I'd like to thank my girlfriend, Mel. She's my biggest supporter. So thank you, babe. Love you. And thank you to you for having me on.
My pleasure.
And also thank you for the support over the years. So we've been separated from each other by distance, from different towns, but we're always talking to each other, always discussing fights and talking about techniques and stuff together. So it's always been really just life in general. Thank you to my coach, Ryan Gillette at Canberra MMA. And thank you to Ty. I always thank Ty, because that man put so much time and effort into me in training. So big shout out to Ty. And thank you to all my training partners at the gym. So everyone, I couldn't do any of it without any of you. So thank you for everyone. And thank you to everyone who's watching. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and I no doubt there's gonna be some more people that are gonna see this and hopefully follow along that journey, because you've still got plenty ahead of you, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited to watch you tackle this new section of your career.
It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
Alrighty, well,
thank you so
much for coming on.
My pleasure.
I can't wait for you guys to hear this one.
It's gonna be good. Cool. Beautiful work.
I like half missed that. That was terrible. I just realised how big your hands are compared to mine.
Yeah.
Oh
you got little baby fists.
I have tiny hands.
Tiny fists of fury.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed these past 2 episodes with my good friend Dim. He is an absolute gem of a human being, and even if he does have a bit of resting bitch face sometimes. Now, I do suggest that you do give him a follow, because I have no doubt that he will be making waves on the MMA scene very, very soon. As always, just a quick reminder, if you can find the time to engage with our content on any platforms, it would be greatly appreciated, because it does help other people be able to find the podcast. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you from wherever you are tuning into the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. And just a reminder, to stay up to date with everything podcast related via our Instagram on Drop Bear Downpour. That is the Instagram page. So until the next episode, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you then. Bye.